To remove the pedal assembly, the first thing that needs to happen is you need to disconnect the brake booster from the clip which sits in there. I'll show you how to do that in a moment because it's going to be impossible to film that. And then there are 6 connection points. There are 2 on this side, there's 1 there and 1 down here, which are just nuts that come off. In addition to that, there are 4 bolts that come through from the other side. There are 2 at the top here, and there are 2 that you can't see at the moment that are really long bolts, about so long, that actually go all the way through the brake booster. And once you've removed all of that, then this thing can actually come off. To make it a bit easier, because what happens is that this big electrical conduit here that holds the main, or one of the main wiring harnesses here, the pedal assembly goes down the back of this one here. So this one actually has to come out a bit, and it's actually in front of it there. So I would suggest there's a nut over here and one there, and also a little thing over here that you can actually allows you to pull that off, and that's going to allow that to come forward and help release it. In addition to that, and this is obviously a PDK, the spot where the clutch connections would be, there's actually a whole bunch of sort of this, it's funny, it's like really sticky blue tack sealant behind it. So when you pull it off, you'll actually have to sort of just break that free as well. And if you actually had a clutch, then there would be the connections here that you would need to disconnect. Obviously I don't have that, and my other car isn't that as well, so I can't help you there. But once we're like this, then we can just pull that back, lift that up, and that eventually comes out. There's the brake booster there. You can see the 2 connection points there, so those big long bolts will go all the way throughout, and they actually sit underneath the brake fluid reservoir. They bolt into there. That sealant, and you can probably see it where it is there, that's where that was. So what I would do is when I'm reinstalling this, I'm just going to thin this blob of sealant out and put that back in there, and then it just gets pushed off in the correct spot. So for install, have the conduit there loose so we can sort of move that around. That boot there needs to slot into that hole there, and that's probably one of the big things that makes it a little bit hard. So reach your hands around, lift up that boot, and then everything will slot down. There's actually a guide pin on the side here which will actually go up into the right spot, and then you can push everything forward, and then everything gets bolted back as it came. To remove the shaft from the brake booster which goes through here is a pretty difficult task. The workshop manual talks about a particular Porsche tool which is designed to come in from the front in this way, reach around and actually separate out these tabs on the inside here. I clearly don't have that, but this is the method that I've worked out that actually seems to work okay for me. What we're going to do, and one of the problems we've got is the brake booster shaft comes through there with a ball on the end of it which is going to poke into here. You don't have much room because you're going to be kind of looking at that picture as you're lying on the floor of the car looking upwards at it. There's also a big electrical conduit which is about so thick, so you've actually only got about that much room in here. So you'll need to have a couple of screwdrivers like that, flathead screwdrivers, where you can get here and lever this thing out. The problem is with this thing, there's on each side there are a bunch of little bumps that actually go into these holes which you've got to lever out, and when you lever out one side it just wants to constantly jump back into the other side. So this is what I use. They're just little wedges that are used for propping up furniture and that sort of thing. That one's about probably 1.5 inches long. And what I'm going to do is initially just jam those down the sides of the clip like that. I'll just shove those in there and show you what I mean. So you can see that's there on one side, and I'm going to do that on both sides, like that. Now you may need to get in here to actually create a little bit of a gap. There's a bit of a flange here which allows you to sort of get things inside here, but you may need to get in here to start off with to open this up a little bit so you can actually jam these down. But then what we're going to do is use those 2 screwdrivers, hopefully I can show you, is we're going to jam down the sides here on the outsides of those lugs. And I would suggest actually starting at the point down here that's furthest away from you first, because when this pops out, this thing is actually going to rotate around sort of a pivot point up here, and you don't want it to be sort of facing away from you. It's just a bit easier if you start from there, but I'll just do it on this top one so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to jam these down the side, and then I'm going to lever those out together. And it's actually a little bit hard when it's not securely firm in the car. But if you lever that out and just do it a little bit to start off with, and obviously you'll be doing that at the other end, but then we're going to go to the other side, and hopefully I'll be able to show you this, and lever that out together, and there you go, out she pops. There we go, and that pops out like that. On the other side you can see that little metal cap that sticks into the ball. But once that's there like that, now this is actually free, and you can remove the pedal or remove the pedal assembly, whatever works for you. And then once that's free, you can actually easily get in there and just push these tabs aside now to actually open these. And the reason you can't open these easily in the car is because that there is attached to that, so that lug is actually being pressed in by the bracket here the whole time, which makes it really, really hard. Connection points to the pedal assembly. And this is on a right-hand drive car, so it's going to be a little bit different on a left-hand drive car, because all these air conditioning pipes are still going to be here, but it's actually going to be on the other side where you're actually removing the screws. So the screws that come from here, there's one there, which is just like that, and there's another one that's actually in there behind the brake booster, which on this side here, because we've got the air conditioning lines, which is a real pain to get out, and the wiper assembly here I've completely removed because this was all completely cluttered up. There was no way I was actually going to be able to get in there, so I removed the wiper assembly. I'll make another video of how to actually do that. It's pretty simple. But then those two bolts can be removed, and the ones that actually hold the brake booster look like this. There's one that actually is in there, going all the way like that, and then the other one is down the other side under here. To get access to these, and again I don't know how this will go with a left-hand drive car, so on a right-hand drive car you've got the carbon canister here. It's pretty easy to remove, but simply it has a single screw just there, and there are a couple of connections on either side. These on the left hand side are just pressed. That one's a single side press. The other one here you press on both sides. You pull those out. This one here just pulls off, and then there's a single M6 screw that gets removed from there, and then you can see there's a pin that goes in here on the underside of it, and then you basically put these in here and rotate it around and put that screw in, obviously the reverse for removal of that. And that was the thing that actually gave me enough room to get access to these and pull these out. So this is your brake pedal assembly here. There's a single shaft. Obviously this is for the PDK because it only has the brake pedal. You would otherwise expect to have a clutch pedal in here, with the pivot being there and the associated business that it attaches to. You've got the brake light switch here. It's just a single magnetic sensor that just pulls out like that. The clip itself, to remove that if you need to, just top and bottom, that just pops straight out. And to set these in the car, you can push it all the way in, and then so you would push the brake pedal in a little bit, push the sensor all the way in, and then just allow it to come back to full travel, and now it's set correctly. So the actual piece of steel here, which is going to be sensed by the magnetic portion of the switch, is right at the correct travel when the brake light or when your brake pedal is all the way out. On the other side, there's a little thing that is metal that actually sort of takes the ball when it's inserted there. That just sort of gets plugged in there. If that comes out, which it probably will, you just press that back into space. There's a couple of little baby clips there that hold that in, and then you just press that back in place for when you need to install later on. And installation is dead simple. So installation is once you actually put the assembly back in, or you put the shaft through here to get the pedal there, you've got that plunger with a knob on the end. You just basically push it on and it just locks into it straight away and you're done.